Take it away.
COVL, hi. My name's Tom. I'm a huge fan. I would love nothing more than to talk about all your work going back to when you were a child. But we're actually here to talk about VR.
Mhm.
So I'm going to dive straight into that if that's okay. Um, how did you first get involved in VR? Was it with this project or had you done anything before?
So this is actually my first time working within this space. I was initially contacted by the Meta team to see if this was something that I was interested in doing.
Hmm.
So this is definitely my first time doing anything in the VR space.
Right. And how did you find it? And perhaps more importantly, how did you actually go about creating stuff in VR? Because I think most people don't really know how that works if they're not kind of actually involved in software. If they're just an
Mhm.
artist, they wouldn't know where to start. So two-part question: how did you find it? And secondly, how did you actually do it?
So I this is my first time, so I got introduced in this space through Horizon Worlds, and this allows you to have the capabilities to basically create any world that you dream of. And so essentially, my first experience in it, I felt that it was a little daunting at first, but with any skill set that I've learned and utilized in my work, it was actually really easy to kind of like get my footing and understand because I was able to take the skill sets from like the things that I utilize with digital work and kind of implement that into Horizon Worlds. So that was my way of getting into it. And it was because of the Meta team and them, showing me about this software and teaching me more about the metaverse that allowed me to expand into this world that we are talking about today.
Great. Um, and so I assume that whatever kind of art you're doing, whether it's a mural or a painting or something digital, um, that you would sort of follow the same process of kind of coming up with an idea and developing it. Um, did you follow that same process with this, or did it happen in a different way?
Luckily, I was able to implement the same kind of process. We worked back from sketching and creating mood boards. And then from there, I was able to work closely with the Inspire team to start building out everything that I had on my mood boards and sketches. So, luckily, yes, I was able to implement my same kind of workflow into this space.
Fantastic. And was there anything that surprised you in the initial stages of doing that that you weren't expecting?
Well, to be quite honest, I thought it was going to be a very difficult thing. As artists, we have been so conditioned to be within our medium or skill sets. And for the longest time, I was, working within the 2D space. And so for the longest time, I shied away from being in the virtual space because I thought it was going to be a very difficult, tedious process. But the
Mm,
moment I hit the ground running within Horizon Worlds, it was actually really easy to adapt to and being able to like utilize your hands and build things out, like it was a lot easier than I thought, to the point where now I'm just like, okay, this is something that I can definitely implement in future projects.
excellent, excellent. Um, so the concept for Nueva Norta, how how difficult was that to come up with? How was it a bolt from the blue, or did that sort of develop over time?
I always wanted to be within this space, and that goes back to me thinking that it would be a very intimidating process. So I already had this world already in my mind, like in my subconscious. It was something that I've always wanted to build out. I just didn't understand how I would go about it or what platform I would utilize. So
Mm,
this creating Nueva Norte was really something that was very second nature to me. It's something that I've always wanted to build out, and the opportunity presented itself. So it was just kind of like very second nature, very like ready to go kind of concept. It was like cooking in my brain for years. And then finally, I was able to make it into what it is today.
fantastic. Um, Now, um, when you're painting on a canvas or a wall, you have a limited amount of space. When you are creating an animation, you've a limited amount of time. I imagine that with VR, you could keep going forever in theory. So were there any limitations in that sense, or did you have to impose them yourself?
No, I didn't feel any limitations. I think this is the first time that I haven't experienced a limit or a bound to say. I think in all my other projects or, my digital work or murals or painting, you always hit that wall of like, okay, this is as far as I can go. But being in this space, I didn't have any reluctancy with that. I felt that I had an endless bound of it. And that's what my work is all about. So being able to see that kind of merge each other was really cool.
Hmm. Excellent, excellent. Um, so getting down to sort of the very specifics, um, obviously everyone knows that your work is defined by color. It's
Mhm.
all about the color. Was that, did you have an idea about what the colors of this world, and if you did, was that easy or difficult to put into practice within VR?
It was at first, I would say, a little difficult because with all my other work, it's very 2D. And then, I would implement like shine and shadow into my work to really like pop out. In
Mm,
Horizon Worlds, what I found is that those same kind of elements that I utilize in my 2D work, I can now actually physically use that light and shadow with the different features and compartments that Horizon Worlds has. So at first, like the understanding of it was a little difficult, but the moment that I saw the Inspire team kind of show me how to utilize lights and vibrancy within that world, it just kind of felt like it clicked.
excellent, excellent. Um, as you are trying to represent a culture that millions of people associate with,
Mhm.
um, how much responsibility and did you feel pressure to get this right? And if so, how did you know whether you had got it right or not?
There was a point where it did become a little like I did feel a little more pressure because this is such a topic where you want to have inclusivity and you want to ensure that anybody that walks into this world feels as if they're part of the narrative and the story. And so there was a moment where I was kind of struggling with that because there's only so much you can do to ensure that everyone feels as if they're seen. But
Mm,
with Nuevo Norte, to reel it back in, was that it was my experience as being Puerto Rican and being Puerto Rican, and what did that look like. And so I felt once I kind of like overcame that idea and reverted back to me and what was my experience as being Puerto Rican, it was easier for me to identify myself around the world and implement things that I felt like would tell my story as being Puerto Rican, but also play into the nuances of what being, Latin or Latino or Latina is. And hopefully people can resonate with that, and it may
yeah,
not look or sound the same, but the experience at hand is the same.
excellent. I've seen glimpses of this. Have many other people seen it, and have you had any feedback yet?
Only the meta team, myself, some of my team members, and then I have shown it to like my partner and some of my friends, and they're
Mm,
just the feedback that they've just gotten is that like, oh, this is you. This looks like COVL. This feels like COVL, and
mm.
we're all just really excited for the public to be able to feel that as well.
Excellent. Um, You've also been creating other work that fits in with this
Mhm.
VR creation. So you've got an installation at Basel and a mural. Is that right? And how did you go around making all that work together cohesively?
So for me, being multidisciplinary, I think the meta team and I had a really fun, like a fun time thinking about how can this also be a multi experience sensory kind of experience for people for Art Basel this year. And so for Art Basel, we'll be activating in three kind of ways, and kind of like showcasing that multidisciplinary side of me. So
Hmm.
we'll have a 8 by 20 feet mural that is my iteration of what Nueva Norte looks like. And then the second compartment would be when attendees see the mural, they can like take their phone and open up Instagram, and then that mural itself is going to come to life. So you have the AR aspect of it. And then the third component, which is, the root of it all, is the metaverse. Is that my computer? Most likely. Sorry. You know how Siri be? Hold on. My computer's on mute, so my apologies. But
Yeah,
and then the third component, which is the root of it, is the metaverse, Horizon Worlds, and Nueva Norte. So the attendees will be able to experience this in VR, AR, and in the physical space.
sounds absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So I'm sensing that you've enjoyed this experience and that you've got something out of it creatively. Um, would you encourage other artists to get involved in VR? And if so, um, how should they go about it?
Absolutely. I think this space has opened up my eyes and mind to the possibilities of what art can be in the future, and having equity in the art that you create in the future, and what that looks like. And so from my experience, I always want to leave every project or opportunity as feeling as if I learned even more. And so if artists and creators, it's part of our ethos to always constantly be evolving and learning, and feeling how, or trying to see how we can adapt our work and our craft into different aspects and mediums. So I definitely recommend that artists of every medium gives a VR space, the metaverse, a try. And how they can do that is, the same way that we've gotten to explore ourselves in different mediums, that sense of curiosity and asking questions. There's so many
Mm,
creators in this space that have really pioneered this and have lend themselves with a lot of information and ways to be included in that. So I would say with curiosity and asking questions on how you can be a part of it, and even reaching out to someone in Meta and having a conversation with them to see how they can be a part of this experience as well.
fantastic. Well, that's great. That's really interesting to hear about. It's great to hear that you've enjoyed it, and the work is amazing as ever.
Thank
So
you.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it.